Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Guru Jaya Jaya Guru Jaya Guru Jaya Guru.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. May I make a quick introduction of you?
Quick,
Okay.
10 seconds.
Hare Krishna devotees. Thank you all for joining. So we have a very, very special.
क्या शेयर कर दूं? Zoom है तो.
Sorry. Very, very special guest with us this evening. His Grace Mahatma Prabhu. It's my absolute privilege and pleasure to welcome Mahatma Prabhu to Hare Krishna Temple of Austin. It's a dream come true for me. I'm a big fan of
Thank you.
Mahatma Prabhu and his classes. So on behalf of Hare Krishna Temple of Austin Prabhu, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to you for giving your divine association
You're
to
welcome.
all of us.
Happy to be here.
So with that, I would like to give a brief introduction of Mahatma Prabhu. His glories are unlimited, but in the interest of time,
I think that brief introduction might be outdated a little bit.
for the pleasure of devotees. Mahatma Prabhu was born in Los Angeles, California in 1950. In 1969, at the age of 19, he met Srila Prabhupada through the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And then later that year, Prabhu met Srila Prabhupada personally in Los Angeles. In January of 1970, he moved into the temple in Berkeley, California. And shortly after, he received his first and second initiations. He went on to do a variety of services, including book distribution, Sankirtan leader, temple president, college preaching, congregational development, and various educational projects. This has culminated in the work he does today, developing workshops, social media, online courses, and books both for devotees as well as general public through his company Sattva. Mahatma Prabhu is well known in ISKCON for his recorded and live music, most notably his recording of Brahma Samhita, but also for his workshops on such essential topics as japa, forgiveness, humility, vows, and marriage. He is now based in Alachua, Florida. He lives with his wife Janava and daughter Brajasundari and travels about 4 months a year. With that, let us welcome His Grace Mahatma Prabhu by loudly chanting Maha Mantra one time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. His Grace Mahatma Prabhu ki jai. Over to you, Prabhu.
Thank you. So you have done the kirtan for me. So I think we'll start because I tried to get here on time, but I guess I didn't try hard enough. Yeah. Ma'am Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shamini Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Kauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunivari Paschatya Dasatani Vanchakalpaturubhyas Chakrapa Sindhuvevaja Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pango Langayate Girim Yakrapa Tamaham Ande Siguru Dinatarinam. I would like to represent to you my experience of being in the movement during Prabhupada's time and Prabhupada instructing us in general about sadhana. So sadhana from his perspective, I'll start with his perspective. More than came from his books, his personal instructions, his letters, and how he kind of explained it to us. And I'll create some analogies that
कौन है होस्ट कहाँ है टेंपल होस्ट किधर है
sometimes Prabhupada, interestingly, would compare the three modes of nature to a disease, sometimes even to a virus. And he would describe chanting and sadhana as inoculation, prevention. And that was the general context in which he explained sadhana. You're in a diseased environment. You have to take precaution, otherwise you become infected. Just like we're taking precaution now. So what those precautions, so he gave us a program in the temples. In the early days of ISKCON, most of the people who were attracted to Krishna consciousness were young and single. So there was, and at that time, I was in Los Angeles, San Diego, and very few Indians were in America at the time I joined. It was rare. It was really rare. I was in San Diego. There were two, in 1972, there were 2 Indian families in San Diego. So we didn't have much of a congregation of American-born people because most of the ones interested would either join or they just come to the Sunday feast and chant and eat, and they weren't really involved much. And we developed programs. We tried to develop programs to create congregation, but it was never that big. And if they got very involved, sometimes they would just move next to the temple. You know, like Los Angeles, you had apartments and they could work for BBT or Spiritual Sky Incense. So it was, Prabhupada was speaking mostly to temple devotees. And so he gave a schedule. We know the schedule, 4:30 Mangal Artik, and then Tulsi Puja, and then Japa, Guru Puja, class, Prasadam, and then Seva. And so he used to say that you can't have any crack in that schedule, because if there's a crack, then Maya will come in the crack, like as soon as you stop. But at the same time, we had a problem. Because, and I think we may still have this problem to some degree, because I think we all have this problem, misconception. Because Prabhupada stressed so much seva and stressed so much spreading Krishna consciousness, that there was a sense that if I did that, and especially if I was successful, the sadhana was a requirement, but not always that important, not that foundational, or not even as important as preaching. And there were a lot of casualties because of that. A lot of people left because they became weak. They had weak sadhana. And, you know, you can imagine a Westerner, 19, 20 years old, their background, and they become devotees. And they have to have strict sadhana because they're really coming from a very low position, very tamasic, rajasic. So there's no culture. Like, I was a devotee. I didn't know anything about Vaishnava culture till I went to India and went to Mayapur. I was, oh my God, there's like thousands of people dressed just like me. Oh, it's the other way around. I'm dressed like them, but we didn't know that. And don't eat with your left hand, and you know, wash your hands after you touch your nose, and all this stuff. We didn't know anything. So we put most of our stress on service, because Prabhupada, you know, spread Krishna consciousness, open temples, distribute books. And then it started becoming a problem because some of our leaders were becoming weak. So then Prabhupada had to address it. We could say he addressed it in his books, but it wasn't clear. So then he started addressing, like, no, first you do your sadhana. There's letters. Don't do anything until you finish your 16 rounds. He said, and every temple president should make sure none of the devotees are engaged. I mean, if you're doing puja, of course, but the regular temple devotees, we all chanted, and that he said, finish that and then seva. Well, first health, then sadhana, then seva. That was that. Then it became the later formula. So one of my godbrothers told me this story. You might have heard this story or something similar to this. Occasionally when Prabhupada would come and there would be a welcoming ceremony, he would ask a question. Who is not chanting their 16 rounds? Like, Prabhupada seemed to know whether he had mystic power or whatever, he just knew. And we were always dazzled and amazed at how he knew. Like you clean every room in the temple except one, and that's where you put all the trash and everything. And Prabhupada takes a tour, and it's the only room he looks at. He doesn't look at the clean rooms. It's like, how did he know? This happened all the time. So one devotee raised his hand and said, Prabhupada, I'm only, I think, chanting 4 rounds. Prabhupada said, why? He said, well, we were refurbishing the temple, and we wanted to get it done in time for your visit. And I'm sleeping 4 hours, and I'm working, chanting 4 rounds and working the rest. Who knows what Prabhupada said? Anyone heard this story? Yeah. Or you might guess what he said. He's sleeping 4 hours and chanting 4 rounds. He needs another hour and a half to chant. So do the math. And Prabhupada gave him even more time to finish. Then sleep 2 hours. Now, did Prabhupada literally mean that this devotee, if he's working that long, should only sleep 2 hours? Because obviously he would get sick. But he's making a point. That he wants to make a point. This is important. This has to be done. Your seva cannot get in the way. So there's a balance between seva and service. So inoculate yourself. You're a diabetic, inoculate yourself, then you can eat, go out. There's a virus. Now, if I say inoculate yourself, some people are going to throw arrows at me, but it's just an analogy. I'm not recommending or not recommending vaccines. I'm just giving an example. You inoculate yourself. And so that was the sadhana. And sadhana, as we know, consists of japa, kirtan, puja, sanga, and holy place. You'll find that in Nectar Devotion. There's a verse. Nama kirtan, sadhu sanga, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Shravana, like that. Living in a holy place. Worshipping the deities. So you take that verse, the 5 things of sadhana, and then you look at the morning program and all 5 are there. Kirtan, japa. So there's kirtan, holy name, there's Srimad Bhagavatam, you're doing it in a holy place, there's deity worship. Sanga. It's all incorporated, right? So my personal experience of sadhana is that we are conditioned souls. Conditioned souls without sadhana remain conditioned souls. Conditioned souls with sadhana become purified and no longer gradually become unconditioned. So in other words, just by knowing who Krishna is, like many people, if you want to teach them Krishna consciousness, not in America, well, maybe now in America, but Indian people born who know Krishna, often when you try to teach them, they say, I know. And we're looking at them and saying, I don't think you know, because I don't see you living that lifestyle. You're not vegetarian. There's no indication that you know. But of course, we understand what they mean is, I know who Krishna is. I know Bhagavad Gita. My grandmother was a Vaishnava or whatever. So knowing is not enough. It's like, I know there's a virus out there, but you have to do something to protect yourself. So we're conditioned souls. And the more we understand what a conditioned soul is, the more we realize how important sadhana is. Because we all know what it means to be conditioned. We have desires. You have desires. They come with this body. They're conditioned from past lives. Some of the desires are good, some are not. But we have them. And those desires and attitudes and consciousness, which is antagonistic to Krishna consciousness, it needs to become purified, and it becomes purified by sadhana. If you don't have the sadhana, how is it going to get purified? Maybe you can say by living, I read Bhagavad Gita, but if you're not chanting, it's a very slow process. If you're not worshiping the deity, if you're not hearing Bhagavatam, if you're not getting Sangha, it's a very slow process. And Everyone knows if you've gone on parikrama or you've gone to any festival where there's a lot of Vaishnavas, you feel uplifted, like amazingly, isn't it? You come back thinking, oh, I kind of feel like I'm self-realized now. Until 3 days later, and you realize, oh, actually, I'm a conditioned soul. It was just that environment. So then you realize how important sadhana is. You know, how important is Sangha? Or you hear a Bhagavatam class, it's amazing. And there's some insight. And that class changed me. I needed to know that point. I didn't understand that. And this is helping me so much. What if you didn't know that? What if you didn't understand that? You'd continually have a misconception. You continually make the same mistake. We just did the last 2 days, we did some classes on japa. You know, some of you may have taken them. You learn a few things and then it changes. Oh, if I just chant this way instead of that way. So what if I didn't learn it? Yes, we know all these things. Our parents are, you know, Vaishnavas or whatever. Okay, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that or it's bad, but if you don't have the practice, then you're still in the contaminated environment. So that was how I understood Prabhupada. It's always you're you know, you don't do this, you're going to revert back. And I'll give some examples of this. So brahmacharis, you know, in Prabhupada's day, brahmacharis meant you live in the temple, you wear saffron, you shave your head. Prabhupada used to say, we're known as shaven head. Okay, you live outside different. So there's one senior brahmachari, and he was growing his hair for some reason, I don't know why. And Prabhupada said why, and the devotee tried to explain. Oh, I didn't try. He did explain, but he said that the devotees advised me because I'm preaching in such and such a place, it would be better I don't shave. I don't know why. Prabhupada didn't agree with that. And the conversation, you know, Prabhupada used to say hippies and hair, they're like the synonyms, you know. You're looking like a hippie, you know. But the last thing Prabhupada said is you're victimized by Kali Yuga. You're a victim. So it's like Kali Yuga. What does Kali Yuga mean? Prabhupada said this. Kali Yuga means there's a dominance of tamagun. There's a little bit of rajagun. And he didn't even, you know, sattvagun is like, you know, get your magnifying glass out. See if you can find it. There's not a lot of it. It was predominantly tamagun. So victimized. Do you ever feel victimized? Just by the environment, yeah. I was just thinking, there's so many big cities in India, you know, big Rajasic cities, but there's so many temples in those cities. So it's not the same because, you know, there's so many more devotees and spiritual people. So even though it's very Rajasic, but it's different there. And in the West, I don't know if you feel this, but I lived in Mayapur. And it's like wherever I go in the West, it's not like that. It's like my rounds in Mayapur. I don't even have to try to chant. They're just good. You get a pass. Free pass when you get to Mayapur, all your rounds will be good. You don't have to try. That's what it's like. Do you ever have that experience? It's like hard to chant bad rounds. Free pass, you will be Krishna conscious while you're here. That's a different situation. But here in the West, this Kali Yuga influence, it's so strong. You have to have good sadhana, otherwise you get beaten down by it. There's an interesting thing Prabhupada said about Sanga. He said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he said Sanga is the root cause. There's a verse, not Prabhupada said, there's a verse, Sanga, association with devotees, and sadhus is the root cause of bhakti in the stage of practice and in the stage of perfection. Because so you're in the stage of perfection, but it's dynamic. It keeps growing. You have love of Krishna. It's not like, okay, I got love of Krishna, it's all over. No. The love will increase eternally. So even in the stage of perfection, that Sangha is what causes it to grow. First time I was in Vrindavan was 1975. We went to the Radha Damodar temple, and I think this place is closed up now, but When you go to the Radhadar temple, if you go through the samadhis and you come around and you walk into the courtyard, on the way to the courtyard, at this point, when we first went there, there was an area. It was like a low ceiling. There was an area. I think they blocked it up now. I don't notice it the last time I was there. And so Guru Das Prabhu he was living in Vrindavan. I think he was the president at that time. And he said, this is where the Goswamis would sit and discuss Krishna Katha. Then he said something I never forgot. And he said, and this discussion was their greatest service, because this is where they got all their realization. So the Sanga, so we could pull out the Shastra and say chanting Hare Krishna is the most important. But if we don't have Sangha, that doesn't really matter, because we won't be chanting, because we need that Sangha, right? So in a sense, Sangha is the most foundational. So Prabhupada used the word root cause. Then Prabhupada talked about chanting, especially chanting 16 rounds. And he said, this is the most essential instruction of the Guru. So if we study, you also can find this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I forget, Madhya 13, 123, I forget. But of all the instructions, of all the rules and regulations, all the instructions of the Guru, the instruction to chant 16 rounds is the most essential. Most essential, not essential, most essential, foundational. So, and how about hearing Bhagavatam? How important is hearing Bhagavatam? What does the Bhagavatam itself say about hearing? That love of God will spring in your heart. It talks about becoming free from the modes of nature in the second chapter, first canto. You come to sattva just by hearing, right? All the anarthas, not all, but 75, most of the anarthas are destroyed just by hearing the Bhagavatam. Like, how important is that? If I have spoken to devotees who are having trouble in devotional service, and often I ask them, how much are you reading? And they might say, well, not that much. Not that much means, 15 minutes every few days, a half hour here, half hour there. Nothing significant. So I say, well, before I try to help you with your problem, could you start reading at least an hour to two every day, Prabhupada's books, and then write me back if you have a problem. And the majority of the time, I never hear from them again. Hopefully that's because they read and the problem went away. I'm assuming that. Or maybe they're too embarrassed to say, I didn't read. But it is a fact that many of the difficulties we have are solved by hearing Bhagavatam. And so much of the inspiration we get is coming from hearing. So particularly these three things, Sangha, hearing Bhagavatam, or hearing any Shastra, and chanting Hare Krishna. This is like, if you remove this, then you just have your more or less conditioned self. You can come to the temple, you can see the deity, it's all purifying, take charna, so many things, but your conditioned self will more or less predominate. And when you do this, you start to override your conditioning and replace it with new samskars. And that's, Prabhupada did not think we could become purified if we didn't do this. Why did he demand 16 rounds? Why did he demand 4 principles? Because he knew it had the power to purify us. He had so much faith in the holy name. And there's another story. This is a beautiful story. I didn't tell it this morning, I should have, but this is such an insightful incident. So there was a devotee, and he wrote Prabhupada a letter with the problems he was having. Occasionally, I had godbrothers who wrote Prabhupada a laundry list of problems. I don't want to get up. I don't feel like chanting. I just want to criticize everybody. I can't get along. It's just like, you imagine writing that to Prabhupada? So he writes a letter, and Prabhupada reads all the problems this devotee's happening. And what Prabhupada says, it's kind of like you go to a doctor, well, the knee hurts, and when I move this way, then the back hurts. It's like typical this disease. It's all the symptoms. I can see from your description that you're committing offenses to the holy name. What an interesting answer. What does that mean? I think we can understand it means that no one would have these problems unless they were committing offense. Because when you commit offense to the holy name, basically what it means is you're not getting any power from chanting. This It's almost better not to chant than commit offense because it's negative. It's like I am not connected with the name now. It's just a shadow of a name, but I'm simultaneously committing offense to the name. So, I mean, the only benefit is you're chanting, hopefully you'll stop offending. That's the idea. So, I can see from these symptoms, you must be committing offense to the holy name. So what are the symptoms Prabhupada's saying? All those conditioned symptoms. Like you're a devotee. Devotees don't have these symptoms. And this is really interesting. Have you ever noticed in your own heart, in your own self, you've said something or done something, and at that moment or later you thought, how could I have done that? I'm a devotee. There's something wrong with me. Like, is there something wrong with my japa? What's wrong with me? I should have never said that or done that. And so you start reflecting, like, is my sadhana like so bad that my conditioned self just overtakes? So I think we can learn from that story. That's basically what Prabhupada's saying. Your chanting's not doing anything because you're still who you are. Now, we all start out at different levels. Some of us are more pure, some of us are more impure. But the holy name is going to give us love and help us become transcendental. So that's one half. And about, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, I wrote an article called Turning Your Workplace into Vaikuntha. And the reason I wrote that article was because people were starting to tell me, I can be Krishna conscious at home, but when I go to work, the environment is really, it's not conducive. You have to be rough and tough. And if you're humble, they'll walk all over you. And so the impression I was getting, and I think this was the right impression, that devotees would have good sadhana and they'd go to work, and when they go to work, they wouldn't try to be Krishna conscious because they either thought it's not possible or it won't be helpful for my job if I'm like too nice, if I'm too humble, too kind. I could prove that to be false, but I can understand why one would think that way. And obviously in some situations you could get taken advantage of if you're not careful. But humility doesn't mean you'll be taken advantage of. So anyway, I wrote the article, and to make the point that Krishna is there in your office, you just have to see him. Like number one, well, you say, where is Krishna? Well, try in everyone's heart for a start. How many employees are in your company? Oh, it's a big company, 25,000. Well, it's 25,000 Paramatmas in your company every day. Did you see any today? No. So Krishna says, one who sees me everywhere sees everything in me. I'm never lost to him. He's never lost to me. Okay. If I could actually see Krishna in everyone's heart, that would be an amazing day, wouldn't it? Office, no office, shopping, wherever, Krishna is everywhere. What if I could see him in every atom? Well, what would that be like? So then that was one thought. I said, well, why don't you put on your desk a little, every week, have another saying on your desk, and, facing out, not in. So people will see it, go, hey, what's that? Or when you have the casual dress day, wear a t-shirt that says, you're in Maya, or whatever, what's Maya? What am I? Why are you saying I'm in Maya? Bring prasadam, What about when someone's angry? You say, oh, this is the mode of passion. It's described in this verse in the Gita. So now I'm seeing the modes of nature acting. I'm seeing how people are being pulled, conditioned. You go to a meeting, crazy things come out of the meeting. You say, yeah, this is all the modes of nature acting on these people. I can see why they're thinking this way and how Maya is working. So you can't say Krishna's not there. You can't see it. So I began thinking, okay, of course, the next obvious thing, and Prabhupada talks about this a lot, the Bhagavad Gita was the original corporate presentation. Now, in India, a lot of devotees do corporate presentations, just brahmacharis in corporations. So where was the original corporation? It was at Arjuna's office. His office was the Battle of Kurukshetra. It was the original corporate presentation. So, and what is Krishna talking about? He's talking about being Krishna conscious in the battle. I mean, if you can be Krishna conscious in a battle, that's pretty good, right? Not easy. Yeah. So it's more difficult in the world because there's more working against you to be Krishna conscious. So I think a lot of devotees just kind of thought, you can't be. So why try? It's not, you go to Vrindavan to be Krishna conscious and, just like you'll go back to work and just suffer, So that's an evolution of my thinking and an evolution of getting feedback from people of what they're seeing, what they're doing. So then another problem I would notice, similar problem when I was saying sometimes we don't act properly. I would start to notice myself and other devotees sometimes, we don't always act brahminically. Sometimes we get upset or we're not forgiving or we're intolerant. We're not kind when we could be or should be, like that. And so I began thinking, if you study Bhagavad Gita, it's very interesting because Krishna describes qualities which make you dear to him. And you know what's really interesting? There are verses in the Gita, there Krishna saying, if you just tolerate duality, you'll become dear to me. It's like so interesting, Because if we go back to the beginning, what I was saying, we're all thinking, how do I become dear to Krishna? Distribute a lot of books, open a lot of temples. Obviously, I'm not saying you don't become dear that way, but it kind of covered up these other things that Krishna is saying. This, be nice to people, befriend everyone, you'll be dear to me. Don't fall in the sway of duality, happiness, distress, gain, like that. You'll become dear to me. Wow. Right? Have you ever not acted that way and just like wrote it off like, well, it was whatever, he deserved it, or that's just how I am, rather than thinking, oh, Krishna's not pleased with me. I just became upset when I didn't have to, or I didn't forgive, or I wasn't humble. So I started thinking like that. And because I was seeing that those things seemed to got like backburnered a lot in our, especially when we were young, they got backburnered because we were like missionaries. And so stepping on other devotees' toes and pushing them aside. The example Prabhupada gives, all the sons massage the father and they end up hurting the father. So that's, hey, I stepped on your toes, but look how many books I distributed. So that's just how we thought. So this was going around in my head and I'm getting feedback from devotees and I'm starting to get complaints, especially from younger devotees. If a younger devotee ever saw a senior devotee act improperly, it was confusing. He said, why is he doing that? He's been a devotee 20 years or whatever. Even if you're a new person, if someone's been a devotee 5 years, that's like a long time. Why is he treating that other devotee like that? Doesn't seem fair. So this was becoming common. I mean, more common because our movement's bigger. And I was seeing it like some devotees were losing faith, some devotees were leaving, and they couldn't make sense of this. I'm saying, well, we're conditioned souls and, this and that. But I had a realization from teaching my forgiveness course was that a lot of us do these things and we don't know that. We actually don't notice it. And I have a funny story. The mask. It's weird, but it's a little weird story. Excuse the weirdness of it, but it's going to explain this point better than any way I can explain it. So I have this mask. And I'm traveling and I get off the airplane and I go to relieve myself, right? And what do? While I'm relieving myself, I spit in my mask. Like that's kind of strange, isn't it? To spit in your mask. And I think I did it twice or 3 times and I did this mask. And then I started to realize, I never realized that somehow or other physiologically, when I relieve myself, I spit in the urinal. I didn't know that. And I don't know how long I've been doing it. Maybe since I was born, who knows? But I never noticed it until I wore a mask. Because obviously, if you spit in your mask, you'll notice it. I'm like, why did I spit in my mask? Isn't that weird? So, well, let's just assume I only been doing it for a year, but I didn't notice till I wore a mask. What is my point? My point is there's a lot of things we do that we don't notice we're doing. And sometimes, if you're married, your partner will tell you, sometimes, maybe all the time. And sometimes you're not trying to argue, but you just don't think you do it. And your wife's like, what do you mean you don't do that? You do that? No, I don't. I never do that. And she's like, what's wrong with you? because you don't always know it. Can you relate to that? Has anyone ever told you you should stop doing this? And like, I don't do that. So I was beginning to see that one of the challenges was that sadhana is not just what we do in the morning, but it continues all day, acting out, tolerance, simplicity, kind, all those things. So I coined this term, sadhana doesn't end at 9 o'clock. It's just level 2 sadhana starts at 9 a.m. You got level 1, that kind of sadhana, and then level 2. And so when I started thinking this way, okay, let's monitor, let me monitor myself. How am I acting? And I started, I'd find all these, like, why did I do that? I'm a devotee. That was like, somebody's in line, hurry up, you stupid idiot, come on, I'm late, like my mind's thinking like that. And I'm thinking, I'm a devotee, like that's crazy. What kind of humility is that? What kind of respect is that? But this was an evolution. Now at least I was noticing it. I noticed that I spit in my mask. I noticed that I'm spitting. I'm sure I've gone on for years and years and years not noticing things that were wrong that I did. And I think a lot of us are in that situation. And I started to think, how could I not notice this? And I realized because I'm a devotee, I think I'm perfect. I think I can't, because I'm a devotee, I think I can't do anything wrong because devotees are just better. And then I started catching myself doing things that actually were worse sometimes in how I dealt with people or thought, prejudice or unkindness, or I just don't care. Like worse than, and then, somebody's struggling with something, you get out of the door and I just walk by and then the guy next to me helps the person. I go, why didn't I do that? Because I'm a devotee and I have important business. So why should I stop? Something like that. So I wasn't noticing. And then, I don't know, this could be quite depressing for you, that I help you start noticing and then you go, oh my God, look at all these bad things I'm doing. I was much better before you gave the lecture. Everything was fine till you gave that lecture. But it's just something I wanted to bring your attention to. When you start to notice, you start to notice. And that's really good because then you can improve yourself. So that was my evolution of sadhana level 2. Level 2 is after 9 a.m. And Krishna's, these qualities, the virtues that Krishna talks about, most of them are in relationships. Kindness, compassion, humility, forgiveness. These are relationships. Integrity. Tolerance also. It's cold out. We have to tolerate like that. But we have to tolerate people. Right? So it's interesting. Most of the virtues are relational. So that was my evolution of sadhana level 2. And I would just encourage you to be aware of the qualities that are Brahminical, because as Prabhupada said so many times, we're trying to at least be sattvic, because from sattva-gun we can go transcendental. And what are those sattvic qualities? They're Brahminical qualities. They're in the Gita. It's good to be aware of them and practice them more. And one of the biggest tests that I believe for practicing those qualities is to practice them at home, because it's actually easier to practice them outside, because it's kind of impolite to be not nice to people you don't know, or you have just working relationships. And it's a lot harder not to be nice to them, and it's a lot more improper, and it's easier, right, to not be nice to the people that are closest to you. So I came to the conviction that 2 things. One, if I can do it at home, I can do it anywhere, because that's the hardest place to do it. And Stephen Covey said, private victory precedes public victory. You have to do it at home first. And of course, no one has a camera on me at home, so nobody knows what I'm doing. You just see me here and I can, show off. And, you might think I'm super Prabhu. But ask my wife if I'm super Prabhu, and that's how you really find out. So at that point, when I went through this whole process, this was, an evolution. It just hit a point where the the impurities finally came out after all these years. Then I really became conscious of my dealings at home, because that's where the biggest offenses were taking place, and sometimes I'd get a little sarcastic or a little short-tempered, and I would think, what is going on here? This is not right. This is unkind. This is not Krishna conscious. This is not what Prabhupada taught. But I think what was happening was I chant 16 rounds every day. I follow the regular principles. I study really well. I do lots of service. So I kind of think subconsciously I felt I was entitled, because I'm doing more than my wife, so I'm entitled to quote unquote offend her. I don't think she would feel I'm offending her, but sometimes I could see subtly that I didn't respond the best way. And then I started thinking that all the challenges at home were actually just blessings, because this is where you can learn. If you can master it here, you've got it, because it's the hardest place. And it's the most likely place to mistreat somebody, because we take our closest relationships for granted. So then we have sadhana, traditional, we have sadhana, out in the world, and we have sadhana at home. So how's your sadhana at home? I don't mean chanting like that. I mean the relationships like. So I think when we understand that, then we're going to be in a much better position as devotees and as a movement. And that lack of awareness of what we're doing, if we become aware, then we can change. And I felt personally the lack of awareness was the biggest problem, because I don't want to be that way. But when I did it, I wouldn't catch myself. Because I'm Mahatma Das. And everybody knows Mahatma Das is perfect, right? Everyone knows, except my wife doesn't know that, because she sees me doing some things that aren't perfect. I'm exaggerating a little here. I'm not that bad. But, on occasion, we all say the wrong thing. We should say something hurtful. It wasn't necessary. It's like, why am I doing that? What's going on? Reflect. Okay, you're great. You're chanting, but you just said the wrong thing and you hurt somebody. So, what's going on here? Sadhu, you're the big sadhu. Sadhus don't do that. So that's my realization of sadhana. So I thought, I would like to share that with you. And if you have any questions now, we can stop and see. Questions or comments or doubts?
Is there any downside to being too critical
of yourself? Okay, good question. It's kind of like cooking. You have to be careful. You need fire to cook, but you have to be careful. So if you see the benefit of self-criticism is not such a good word. Can we think of a better word? If you see the benefit of introspection, let's use that word, it sounds better. If you see the benefit of introspection, then you'll see it kind of like going to a doctor and finding out something was wrong. You don't want him to find out anything is wrong. But if he finds cancer in stage 1, you're happy. If he finds it in stage 4, you're not. So if you embrace the process as something important, useful, essential, then it won't be a problem. If self-criticism is a byproduct of some unhealthy psychology, then it's going to be a problem. So depends how you're placing it, the context. Because we're told to look and improve, look at ourselves and improve. And it's really, if you can accept yourself as you are, then you can do this. If you can look at okay, here's the answer. It's taking me time. I'm a little tired. If you can look at yourself without judgment, it's just, I have this problem. Don't judge it. It's just, I have it and I have to fix it. As soon as you equate judgment to it, then you start demeaning yourself. I have this problem. That means, what does it mean? It means I'm stupid, or I'm a failure, or I'm useless, or I'll never become anything. And so then you're placing all these meanings on it. Then you're in trouble. Whereas if you just say, I'm not good at this, I need to learn how to do it. I keep making mistakes in this area. That's good information, because then you can improve it. So, in Buddhism, they teach something. It's kind of not exactly what we teach, but in this context, it's useful. See it without judgment. Just like, what is that? Oh, that's a this. You don't make any judgment on it, because certain things we don't want to make judgments on it, because we'll make negative judgments. So better don't make any. It just is. What is it? It's a problem. Is it good or bad? No, it's a problem, and I'm going to work on it. Problems can be good because I improve myself. So if it's tied into, I always do everything wrong and it's never going to work out, then yeah, you don't want to be introspective. It'll just be depressing, and it'll just exacerbate the problem. But that's the problem in the first place. Then I'm self-judging. We were fortunate to be with Prabhupada because he didn't judge us like that. If he didn't like something we did, he would say, that's wrong, correct it. He wouldn't say, you're stupid for doing that. Occasionally, but not with some disciple who's just, like his servant or something, who could take it just for like entertainment's sake, he would say it, You want to hear a funny story? The two devotees were like doing something in the kitchen and it wasn't working. And Prabhupada's like, what's going on? And Prabhupada goes in and goes, you two are completely useless. They weren't useless, but that was, So sometimes Prabhupada would do that. But in general, that wasn't his mood. It's like, you made a mistake. Okay, how are you going to correct it? Prabhupada will do it this way. Okay, do it. That was it. It's finished. There was no need to put them down. Prabhupada was always encouraging. So I always suggest people should encourage themselves, even if you have faults, just accept it and then work to improve. Because if you don't accept it, you get negative. And then if you get negative, what's the use of trying to improve? Because I have so many faults and they'll never end. Okay, great. So you can stick around and get another body, but you're going to bring all those faults in with the next body. So you might as well get them out now. Is that okay? Yes.
So there is a question online.
Okay.
So Hare Krishna Prabhu, you said it is better not to chant than to chant with offenses. Is this true for younger kids who are starting chanting?
Yeah. It has to be taken with a grain of salt. Because the idea is you're not going to chant with offenses your whole life. You're going to improve. So it was more of a, let's say, an academic statement than a recommendation. It was more of a philosophical analysis. Let me think of a good example. Let's say you're a really bad husband. I don't know if you are or not, but most men are. So, but the odds are in my favor. So, and you're trying to be a good husband, but you have no idea how to be a good husband. So, you're trying to do things for your wife, and you go, hey, I got you some flowers because, your sister said, get her some flowers. Hey, I got her some flowers. And you just come home and they throw the flowers on the table, and then you go watch television. And your wife's like, what a jerk this guy is. He buys me some flowers and he doesn't even put them in a vase. So it's better you didn't buy the flowers because you just made it worse. Man, have you ever had this experience? You're trying to do something to please your wife, but you don't. It's like the wrong color at the wrong time and the wrong product in the wrong way. And it's like, it makes everything worse. It's better you just didn't try because you're so bad at it. It's like, it's our anniversary and you buy her a vacuum cleaner. Don't buy a vacuum cleaner for your anniversary. Yeah. I've never done it. I just got the message from my wife not to do it. So I know, So your wife's, it's your anniversary, she's expecting you're going to take her somewhere on vacation or, buy her some, let's go to the mall. Yeah, here, take the credit card, buy whatever you want, something like that. You come home with a vacuum. Isn't it our anniversary? This is really cool. And she just starts crying. This guy is useless. Right? So it's better you bought her nothing than the vacuum cleaner. So that's the idea. So not that you shouldn't buy her anything and you shouldn't understand how to buy anything, but if you're going to keep, doing the wrong thing, you're trying to do the right thing, but you're doing the wrong thing and you don't realize it, it makes things worse. So you're just chanting with offenses. That's like, what's the point? It's just, you have to stop. So Shastra says, keep chanting. But, Shastra is interesting because there's a lot of times there's these buts that nobody pays attention to, or, it's on the bottom of the page that you read when you're tired at night and you kind of didn't. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, yes, if you make offense, chant, but chant in regret for making the offense. Don't just schnick, schnick, ram, ram. It's like, well, it's better to schnick, schnick, ram, ram than do nothing. Well, I don't know. Because if you're supposed to continue chanting to overcome the offense, you're supposed to continue chanting with regret, remorse for having committed the offense. That's when you become purified of the offense. Does that make sense? So, so it's a good they asked the question because it was just I'm not recommending anybody do that, but it's kind of like, if you're just going to chant with offense, like, hello, if you're going to do something wrong, okay, can you roll some chapatis? Every chapati you roll has got a hole in it. It's like, well, if you're going to roll chapatis and they end up with holes in it, maybe you shouldn't roll chapatis, because we can't use them. We're throwing them all out. So, 16 useless rounds down in the dustbin, what's the point? Okay. So we know Prabhupada would never say that, don't stop chanting, but I'm just making a point that, you don't want to continually make offense because then it's like I'm chanting and I'm making offense. I'm buying vacuum cleaners for anniversaries. It doesn't work. For all you men who didn't know that, now you know.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
I liked your class very much. The way you explained after the practice 16 rounds, after the chanting 16 rounds, you practice in the day-to-day life, second evaluation. The another point you mentioned, practice in the home, and your immediate family members. And that is the first challenge when we win. That's it. Outside world is also we are winning. I like that point. And my question is, sattva guna qualities and brahminical qualities you mentioned in between, and transcendental qualities. These are the levels, but what is the difference between sattva guna and the brahminical qualities?
There is no difference because when Brahmins are in sattva guna, so then that's why Brahmins have all the sattvic qualities because they're in sattva guna. So when Prabhupada would initiate a devotee of Brahmin, he'd say, well, what's the qualification? He said, well, first initiation, let's see if you can do it. It's a little more liberal. But when you would give second initiation, when you would be given, Prabhupada would say, you have to be strictly following, because if you're following four regular principles strictly, that means you're sattvic. Prabhupada would talk about, you're a Brahmin, you're clean, you're regulated, you're disciplined. It's the same. That's what it means to be a Brahmin. You're being sattva guna. And so there's no difference. And being in sattva guna is the stepping stone. And some of the sattvic qualities, they're the same. It's just application may be slightly different as transcendental qualities, compassion, all these things. Compassion can manifest in different ways. But when it manifests for the conditioned souls to save them, that's transcendental, coming from the heart of, love of Krishna. But still, compassion is compassion, it's just applied in the proper way. So, and there are many statements that Prabhupada has talked about being sattvic. So it's not something we should take lightly because it's just going to help you. Should you get second initiation if you have first initiation? Maybe it'll help you if you do it, if you live properly. But if you have second initiation and you don't live in sattva guna, your mantra doesn't work. You can't be in passion and have the mantra. You have to be in sattva gun for the mantra to work in the first place. So, yes. Is that okay? Did that answer it? Or?
Prabhu, then Prabhupada is used many times two different words, right? Like I'm still need clarification regarding that.
Two different words.
Sattvaguna qualities and Brahminical
Yeah,
qualities.
it's the same thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Saveksamam. You can read Bhagavatam, it describes the mode of goodness. You can read Brahminical qualities. If you want more elaboration on Sattvaguna, you can read in the Bhagavatam, it describes, because everything in this world is within one of the three modes. So when you're describing Brahman, you're describing specific, usually characteristics, like, the tolerance and the humility, compassion, samadha, tapasya, self-discipline. But the whole world is divided into three modes of nature. So there's much more elaboration on, what is goodness. But generally, you'll find all those elaborations that will fit in the Brahminical lifestyle. Like, do Brahmins eat onions and garlic? No. They're food sattva because they're Brahmins. That's what at least they're supposed to. I don't know now what they eat. But at least for us, right? So I think it's just a good guideline. If you want to get second initiation, you should live, your house should be clean, organized. You shouldn't be up late. You shouldn't be engaged in activities which are not Brahminical. Just in your house, Bhoga Prasadam and plate you eat on and deity plate. Everything is just, it's separated to some degree. That's Brahminical. And if you want further clarification, just go to South India. Go to Sri Rangam, lots of Brahmins there, and just follow them around and see what they do. And you'll know. But it's interesting because Prabhupada was not so much into those kind of ritualistic Brahminical details. It was, he was, but not so much. Because he was more into the heart of a devotee. You want to hear something very interesting for all you ritualistic people out there in the world? This is so interesting. This is going to be anti-ritual. So I don't want to undo your ritual, but I just wanted to. Rituals are good. I don't want to say they're not, but they can go too far. So the devotees served Prabhupada grains on Ekadasi, and he didn't know. And later in the day they found out, or they found out the next day. Like, there's some confusion here because I came from Florida and Ekadasi is today. But it was yesterday here, or at least some people said it was yesterday here. Or maybe we don't know. Yeah, sometimes it happens. So that happened with Prabhupada, and then he said, okay, we'll follow it tomorrow. Now, how can you follow Ekadasi on a day that's not Ekadasi? Because it's astrological, and we heard that the sin goes in the grain, and when you eat the grain, etc. So the next day, it's like it wouldn't matter, because it's not Ekadasi. So what was Prabhupada thinking? Obviously, he was thinking you should do austerity twice a month and not eat grains. So, that's interesting. And another interesting thing is that in the early days of the movement, the whole movement followed Ekadasi on one day. I think it was just calculated in Mayapur or somewhere. And then, so that means the certain number of days per year, we followed Ekadasi on the wrong day for our area because we were following at India time. And then some devotees understood that. And they changed it. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's good. But before that, it wasn't like a priority for him. It's like, you follow Ekadasi twice a month. you get the day right or one day off. Like it wasn't such a big problem. You should get it right, obviously, but it wasn't the biggest thing for Prabhupada. So it's just good to know, because he's our founder acharya, and we all come with our own ideas, right? So you don't want to like rituals are good, but you don't want to go so far into rituals that it doesn't represent Prabhupada's mood, or so far the other way, no rituals, So I always in my life, when I'm trying to understand something, I always try to stand back from what I think is right and first look at, well, what did Prabhupada do? What did he say? Because I could look at the Shastra and say, this. But what did Prabhupada do? I'll give you another. We have more time? Yeah. Okay, so this is one of my favorite stories, and I don't think all of you understand this story, or have heard it. But it's such a telling story about reading something in Prabhupada's books, but not understanding his mood and therefore misunderstanding what he said. Because if you understand the topic of hermeneutics is how do you understand something? And so something is said, but how do you understand it? Well, who said it? When did they say it? Why did they say it? What was the context? That's all part of it. And in regards to what Prabhupada said, what did he actually do? Did he actually do what he said? Because sometimes he didn't do what he said because he was just representing some scripture. Well, in the Manu Samhita, it says this. Did he ever do it? Never. So this is an example of that. Just to help us, in this point where I'm saying I'm always trying to understand it, not just in Shastra, because sometimes in Shastra, it's very clear. This is just what it means until you start looking at what Prabhupada did and what his mood was. So in Shastra, it says a brahmachari sannyasi, maybe a vanaprastha also, should not hear the singing of women because it's like subtle sex for them. They're enjoying it. This is a beautiful voice. I love it. It's like they're subtly connected with the woman. That's the idea. Because, renunciates should be renunciates, right? Grihastas, okay, all grihastas, you can hear all the beautiful singing of women. But the brahmacharis, no, you can't. So that was what it seemed like it said. Not that's what it seemed like, that's what it said. And so then one would conclude, I'm brahmachari, so, I want women leads a kirtan here, just I'm going outside, when it's over, I'll come back. Of course, we don't do that. And there's a reason we don't do that. And I'm going to tell the story. This is such an important story for you. So 1970, George Harrison made the Radhakrishna Temple album. And as we know, the Govinda prayers were on it. And they played the prayers to Prabhupada, and he was crying when he heard it. He just, it brought Prabhupada into the spiritual world. And I think he was also feeling the devotion of the devotees, right? And so we actually used to chant the Govinda prayers before that. When I was first a devotee, before Bhagavatam class, we'd sit down, Chintamani Pakarasad. We would chant it because Lord Chaitanya chanted every day. I don't know how that happened, but it was already going on when I joined. So then when that album came out, then Prabhupada said, we'll just play it when we greet the deities, because that's before class, and that just replaces us just singing it. So Jamuna was leading, and there's a bass guitar, there's a keyboard, I think a harp or a nylon string guitar, there's drums, and there's strings, I believe. So these are like typical instruments of rock and roll. But it's the way it's mixed, you don't notice it. It doesn't sound like rock and roll. So a bunch of brahmacharis were thinking, this is a woman singing, and every day we're greeting the deities. It's like when he wrote this letter, we had every temple in America. It was just 90% brahmacharis, 80%. There's a lot of men. And it was written from LA, and there was at least 100, 150 brahmacharis. God forbid being subjected to hearing Jamuna singing Govindamani Purusham. What could be worse than that, right? So they wrote Prabhupada and they told him and said, Prabhupada, you said in your books We should not hear a woman singing. It's a subtle fall down. And plus, there's bass, there's drums. It's like, we would rather hear you singing. This is like double trouble. It's rock and roll with a woman singing every day, greeting the deities. Like, it doesn't get any worse than that, right? And it was such a bad letter to write Prabhupada. Sometimes Prabhupada, he didn't want to get into it, so he would just say something. So he said, no, it's Sankirtan. Many people are singing. He didn't want to get in and say, you idiot, like, you don't understand anything. You know, what's wrong with you, you fanatical brahmachari? You know, he didn't want to go there. But he did say, we are hearing here in Vrindavan and wherever Prabhupada was, it's good enough for us. It's not good enough for you. That was Prabhupada's kind of like, so what was he saying? If we analyze it, I would say he's saying, you didn't understand that because you didn't understand my mood. My mood is not to push women out of ISKCON, and so no one has to see them or hear them. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. So he blew it off. Then another time, you may know this story, maybe this is more well known. The brahmacharis in New York were, quote unquote, agitated because the women were chanting japa in the temple room at the same time. So they had asked the women to chant outside, and there wasn't any place to chant, in the hallway, on the stairway, you know. So one of the women wrote, or someone wrote to Prabhupada, probably a woman. Prabhupada was so upset. And he wrote similar thing. He said, you know, this is not done, you know. This is good enough for Ramanujacharya. This is good enough for, you know, Madhvacharya, and is not good enough for you. You have to push them out of the temple. So it was clearly something that they were analyzing according to their intelligence based on what Prabhupada said, completely distinct from Prabhupada's mood and his heart. So that's why I brought up this story. You know, you could make an argument for A, but you have to go to Prabhupada and say, did he represent, is that what he wanted? Is that what he gave attention to? Because sometimes A looks good, but Prabhupada knows for us as conditioned souls, A is not good because we'll get carried away with A, and he doesn't want us to, and we'll forget B. Another story, I don't know if you know this, it's interesting stories. In Los Angeles, there was a group of devotees, you may have heard about this, they were meeting every day to read the 10th canto about the gopis, pastimes, and they read that this is the highest, to meditate on the gopis. So they thought, well, we'll just read Gopi Leela. And so some devotees were starting to think, this is a little weird, that they're, you know, just reading about the gopis. Obviously, it is weird. And it came to Prabhupada and was discussed. And it was discussed over and over. And then Prabhupada said something. He said, you have to stop this. If you don't, it will destroy the preaching. Something which seems so innocent in Prabhupada's mind, saying it will destroy the preaching. Why? Because no one in Radhakund is preaching, and that's what they're doing. Artificially thinking they're understanding the gopis and hearing about them and relishing and rasik and blah, blah, blah. And there's not one person who's doing that in Radhakund that did anything to spread Mahaprabhu's movement. So that's Prabhupada's thinking. So you have to know his thinking to go, oh, okay, it's good to hear about the gopis. He says that. But if you go over the threshold, then it could possibly take you into a point where you stop preaching. That's how he saw it. You're not ready. It's not digestible. You're eating too much. You're going to get sick. So, okay. So now we know what Prabhupada said. And now when we read things, we take that in consideration and go, okay, so this is really important. Otherwise so that was we had started about ritual. Ritual is good, but how much? And what was the ritual Prabhupada really wanted us to do? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So you could get so much into ritual and deity worship that you don't chant any rounds in the morning and you schnick, you know, at 10 o'clock at night. That's not what Prabhupada wants. So, yes, you have.
Yes, there's a question online. Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I get example of offenses while chanting? I know looking at phone while chanting is offense, but I want to know the serious offenses.
Yeah. The biggest offense while chanting is to ignore Krishna. So we call that inattention. Yeah. But when I'm chanting and I drift off into thinking about a million things, everything except chanting, that's an offense. And that's a very common problem. I'm chanting and, let me give you an example. I don't have my phone with me, but let's say this is my phone. So I'm giving the lecture to you, and like every 3 minutes, I'm checking my phone. Would you feel disrespected? Or, you know, at first you might think, well, that's got some emergency, but I do it for an hour. You would feel pretty disrespected, right? Because I'm not really here. I'm here on my phone. There's something going on, and I'm not with you. So now you're chanting, and you're on the phone of your life, or at worst, on your phone. What does Krishna think? Like, Krishna's thinking, is there something wrong with me? You don't like to think about me when you chant? You know, you like your phone better? You thinking about the stock market right now? That's what you want to think about? Who, you know, what's happening in the Ukraine? Is that what you're thinking about while you're chanting japa? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen there. And, you know, it'll happen after you finish your rounds. You don't have to worry about it. It'll still be happening or not happening, hopefully. So I believe that this happens because we don't give enough importance to chanting, that we would allow ourselves. Like sometimes a woman is talking to her husband and he thinks what she's talking about is not that important, so he doesn't listen. He's like, yes, 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 yes. And she just told him to buy things and do things, and he didn't hear it because he thought it was stupid. And just an hour later, did you buy everything? He's like, buy what? I told you to buy this. You didn't tell me to buy anything. You ever had that experience? We don't want to incriminate anyone in public here. But every wife has this experience. It's just common. I mean, your husband might be rare. Maybe less of a problem with, yeah. So, but it's quite a common problem. You think something's not, or your kid's saying blah, 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 you know, this happened at school, and you're thinking, that's stupid. You don't listen to it. So, you know, if you don't think something is important, then you're not going to do it well. So if you don't really think japa is that important, if you just think you just have to get it done, it's not, you know, just get it done somehow, then you're going to be inattentive and you'll chant and you'll be doing something else in your mind while you're chanting. That's where all the offenses come from, mainly for us. That's the big thing. Of course, criticizing devotees is a big offense. That's pretty straightforward. Krishna's not happy if we criticize devotees. But here's the good news. For a criticism to be a big offense, it has to be blasphemous of a very elevated devotee. That's when you get destroyed. You know, otherwise, every grihasta would have left Krishna consciousness because the husband and wife are always offending one another. But it's out of love. It's not the same thing. You know, so I may criticize Jason because he came late, you know, but it's like, Jason is not Prabhupada, and it's not a big criticism. But, you know, if he were Prabhupada and I made a blasphemous statement, that would be the end of my devotional service. So I think, you know, the criticism is a problem, but it's usually for most of us not so destructive until it hits a certain threshold where we're just like making up stories about people and telling the world. Then it's a problem. And our heart, it's a vicious, coming from a vicious heart. We just want to like destroy this devotee. We don't like them. You know, then you're going to get in trouble. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that inattention is the main problem, but he said it does cause the other problems. So that's my experience. Just, I'm not present when I'm chanting because I'm just so passionate about a million things that I can't just sit peacefully with Krishna. That's offensive. And then you chant. And all I'll say to you is, good luck. with your japa. You want to hear a story? These devotees were making an offense. They weren't following two of the regulative principles. You could guess, they were hippies, so you can guess which two they weren't following. Yeah, not difficult to guess. But they were chanting. And so the GBC had discussed this and said, this is not good. They had a whole community of people chanting, but only two principles. So the GBC discussed it, and then the GBC discussed it with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, this is offensive because they're disobeying the order of the Guru to follow these principles, which they agreed to follow. And then the GBC said, but they say, at least we're chanting. And Prabhupada said, well, that chanting, maybe 300 lifetimes will become effective. So if you're chanting offensively, it could take 300 lifetimes before anything touches you. Because pretty much, the example of the holy name Namabas is sunrise? Well, this offensive chanting is midnight on a dark moon night. There's no light there. You're not going to get sunburned. Nothing's going to illuminate you. And pure chanting is noon in August in Austin. It's the hot sun. I know, because I lived here. So, sometimes we think, well, I'm chanting, so I'm getting purified. Yeah, all right, you are, but it just could take you one life or 300. Your choice. Offensive, 300 lifetimes. No offense, one lifetime. So it's important to understand that, because I think a lot of people think, well, you just chant, it'll work. It's true to some degree, but you're not going to get a suntan at midnight or a sunburn. You have to have some sun for it to be effective. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah, it's actually just quite simple, common sense. Yes.
Prabhu, you spoke about noticing things that we do wrong. So is this correct understanding that one's ability to notice or understand things that he or she does wrong depends on the level of their sadhana? If the sadhana is low, then we may not even know or even acknowledge the problems.
Yes and no, because my observation was, I've seen people with good sadhana not notice for the very reason that they have good sadhana. That's why they didn't notice. So it's kind of a paradox. So if you, as I often say, if you ask this question on the Bhakti Shastra exam, you have to say, yeah, good sadhana will produce humility because that's the Shastra. I'm just saying that sometimes good sadhana produces pride. And we can also quote Shastra for that. That's maybe not so prominent. Why do I become proud? I'm doing good sadhana, so I'm becoming proud, thinking I'm better and thinking there's nothing wrong with me. And so this is a big problem. It especially becomes a problem when you're a leader. If you're just somebody being proud, that's bad for you. But if you become a leader being proud, it's bad for everybody. So I would say, yes, it's true, but not necessarily. But what's needed is just more of a consciousness, introspective consciousness, and a realization that this is important, and a desire to notice and a desire to improve. Because when you desire to improve, you start noticing how you can improve. So I would say in my life, that's when it happened. I just hit this point and said, like, well, how long am I going to go on, with kind of not perfecting this process? So I became more aware of what I wasn't perfecting. So it brought a lot of awareness. And I was at a stage in my life when I wanted that awareness also, because if you don't want it, you don't really notice it, because it's like Sakshi was saying, maybe you don't want to notice it because it's just like depressing or it'll make you feel worse. So that's also possible. And I think some of us have big false egos. It's hard to admit that we have these faults. So we don't want to investigate. Or we investigate and our egos are so bad and big, we investigate and we don't find any. What do you mean you didn't find it? You've got so many. Everybody can see it. I didn't find anything. What are you talking about? Right? Big ego. So the problem is that sometimes the spiritual process can actually inflate the ego. Unfortunately. So it's, chant Hare Krishna, you'll become humble. That's the hope, but it's not guaranteed unless you actually do the work properly, because it can backfire. I mean, we see this in the world. Religious people have killed. That's huge backfire, right? You see sometimes these Christians, they're up there yelling at people, screaming, you're going to hell, you're all bad. Like, where's that coming from? If that's generated by the spiritual process, who would want to become a Christian? I'm just going to yell at people. So it's a qualified yes, but it's not the only way. I also see that on the stage of sadhana, when you're dealing with a lot of these anarthas, they don't go away so quickly and they need help. Like you have a loose tooth. You ever have a tooth that gets loose or something, and you just go, I'll just pull it, because it's not coming out on its own, but it should naturally come out. So I should become humble by the process, but it's going to need help. I have to actually, I have to see how I can be that. Can I be more respectful? Am I disrespectful? Could I be more respectful? Are there ways I could be more humble? Ways I could control what I'm saying? That's like pulling the tooth out. It needs help. So, if you chant long enough, it will happen. But why wait for it to happen when you can make it happen sooner? And then you keep chanting. Your chanting is going to be better if you pull the tooth out. If you're humble, it's going to be better, right? So this is the question, questions always asked, well, won't all these good qualities develop? I say, yes, but if you're angry and proud, ego-driven, etc., that's going to get in the way of the process that's going to make you humble. So, our Shastra Sadhana says, practice humility. Trinadapi sunichena. That's the third verse, not the 8th verse. That's the practice. You're still in practice there. Chant. How to chant humbly. How do you do that? I'm not humble. How do I chant humbly? Pray to Krishna for help. That's humility. Help me, Krishna. I'm not pure. Admit it. Acknowledge it. Pray for help. So, you have to, they both work together. And Shastra makes it seem like you don't have to do it. You just have to be Krishna conscious. But then if you look at it more, but you can't be Krishna conscious if you don't do it. Common sense, right? So, it only took me 40 years to figure out that was common sense. Sometimes it's like that. Because I'm looking at that and I'm looking at life and saying, it doesn't actually seem exactly like that. Like I've been around for a while and I still have a lot of problems. So it's like that verse can't just mean it the way I understand it. It's got to mean more. And then you start looking, you should chant humbly. You should respect the devotees. Prabhupada puts up the 26 qualities, develop these qualities. How do you develop them? You start practicing, right? Be clean. How do you practice cleanliness? Go clean your room. Go take a shower. No, Prabhu, when I become Krishna conscious, then I'm going to clean my bathroom. What's wrong with you? No, it says right there in the Shastra that all good qualities develop. Cleanliness will be one of them. So when I become Krishna conscious, on that day, we'll celebrate. I'll clean my house. Till then, it's going to be dirty. You'd think you are crazy. But what's the difference of saying, well, it's just going to come and you don't have to do anything? It's exactly the same, isn't it? Are you convinced? Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna devotees online, any questions? Please unmute and ask.
Hare Krishna, Swamiji. So Swamiji, we do our chanting, we read Bhagavad Gita, we study for the test, but I think what is happening in my case is that sleeping state where I'm reading all this, but I feel it's unachievable.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Sthit Pragya devotee, which we're reading right now.
Good question.
How do we break that and shake ourselves?
Okay. Can I blow your mind? It is unachievable. It is unachievable, but I will qualify it. You read the story of Prahlad Maharaj, and his father's trying to kill him, and he's praying for his father's liberation. Like, okay, I'm supposed to become like that? That seems impossible. And I could become very discouraged thinking I have to become like that. So here's the qualifier. We do have to become like that, but not now. Now it's our goal, but it's not what's achievable now. Okay, so then I would ask the question, after you read the story of Prahlad Maharaj, what could you be, how could you be a little bit more like him now? Like what would be a step for you?
Building that faith in Lord, like his faith in Narayana.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good answer. So instead of thinking I have to be like Prahlad Maharaj 360 degree, and like, love my mother-in-law. I mean, I love her as long as she's in India and like that, So, I mean, these are realities for us. But after reading that story of Prahlad Maharaj, I see, as you said, I could develop a little faith. So that's how that story helps you. So you can't, you're not going to achieve that. It's not possible now because these are devotees who have love, who are setting the example so we can see and aspire for it. So rather than get discouraged, if we think, what could I do to get a little closer to that, then it becomes an inspiration because that's all you can do. And then it's like, oh yeah, I could develop faith, or I could, be nicer to my mother-in-law or whatever, right? Then you're okay. Though the story is good, because otherwise the Bhagavatam wasn't written to discourage us. So how do you feel after reading the Bhagavatam? I'm so discouraged because I can't be like any of those devotees. I'm never going to read it again. It's just depressing. Right? It can't be. It has to be, oh, this is so inspiring. Takahari does. So inspiring. Just chanting no matter what. Maybe I could get a drop of that taste, that faith, that taste. That's how we do it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I want to tell you something that's so inspiring. There was a Russian retreat in Orlando, maybe 2 months ago, and I was invited to come. And part of the retreat, they put on a play to reenact the devotees who were being tortured. I think it was like their anniversary, 50th anniversary of Prabhupada going to Russia. And they enacted a play. And in the play, the KGB was telling them, you just tell us where the other devotees are and you won't have to go to jail. And they were describing, if you go to jail, all these bad things are going to happen to you. You'll be tortured. You'll be given these psychotropic drugs. It's going to, destroy your brain, your health. And so there was a scene after scene they enacted, where this heavy KGB, just tell us. Why don't you just, we'll let you go. Just tell us. And the devotee's sitting there. And he's saying, you'll be in jail for life. And the devotee's sitting there. And it's like, what's he going to say? No. And they throw him off to jail. And we're seeing this one after another. Because I never really realized what the devotees went through, and seeing it as a drama, like everybody was crying. This is incredible that they were ready to sacrifice their life. They could have just said, this devotee lives here or there. They wouldn't say it. And we were all thinking, I don't know if I would have done that. I'm not sure. But what an inspiration that was. That's the point, to get that inspiration. And now, what will I do when my father turns against me? If that ever happened, or someone, and then we think of Prahlad Maharaj, we've got inspiration. Well, what did he do? Right? So we need those examples, right? Because they're our North Star, they guide us. Maybe I can't do it all like him, but I can do better than I'm doing today. That's how to take it. Then it's fine. Is that okay?
So one related question,
Okay.
that role playing which you talked about. So after we do self-introspection, in my case, I shouted on my daughters, or I was inattentive to what they were saying. I mean, they were like spot on when you said that. You won their heart almost. So then do I role play and say, what am I going to do differently when this same situation happens? Or do I?
Well, one good question to ask is, how should a devotee, what is the proper behavior for a devotee in this situation? What would be a manifestation of bhakti? What would be a manifestation of what would be pleasing to Prabhupada? What would he expect? What is the right action and attitude? I'd say attitude is more important because the action will follow the attitude. So then you realize, oh, this is I have this tendency to be short-tempered or whatever the problem is. And then you say, Krishna, I can see this is wrong. This is not how a devotee should act. There's so many examples of devotees not acting this way. Pray to Krishna, please guide me. How can I improve myself? Now, what's funny about this is, let's just say, for hypothetically, you have an anger issue. We say anger management issue. So, and you finally realize it, and you say, this is not fair to my daughters. They don't deserve to be treated this way. And so you pray to Krishna, please help me. And you go shopping, and you pick up a shopping cart, and in the shopping cart, someone left a book on anger management. Like, these things happen. This is the way Krishna works, So once you recognize it and realize you need to improve it and pray, that's like half the battle is won there. Everything just happens then. Krishna wants to help you. But if you don't recognize it and you don't want to improve, then it doesn't happen. You suffer, they suffer, everybody suffers. So, and then if you take that in the context of what I was saying, this is part of your sadhana to control that. It's not just, these are my daughters and they have to be punished or scolded or whatever. No, I'm a devotee now. There's a way to do it. To get, I want to get this result that they understand they made a mistake or so forth. But I have to do it within the paradigms of what's proper behavior for a devotee. It's so easy not to do that. But to keep it within the parameters of bhakti, that's not easy. That's the hard part. Which is why we don't do it, because we're going to be restricted in so many ways.
Thank you, Maharaj. The biggest learning for me is to treat myself as a devotee and behave like one.
Yes. Take care of yourself. Be compassionate to yourself. That's where it all starts. And then if you treat yourself nicely, you treat everyone nicely. You treat yourself harshly, you treat others harshly. That's a fact of life. I taught a course or part of a course on self-care, and everybody had that realization. How I treat myself is how I treat others. It's a big realization. So if I'm treating others harshly, does that mean I'm treating myself harshly? It's a question you can ponder. And if you're becoming upset, also the question is why? What's going on? It's not what they're doing that's upsetting you. That's just a external cause. There's something deeper, Well, that's how my mother dealt with me, or so whatever. You get back to the cause, and then you can start to solve the problem. I mean, that's the first place to go is mother, father, because we tend to repeat what they're doing. Well, that's how I was treated. They wouldn't let me get away with that. Yeah, well, that was, whatever, 30, 40 years ago in India, In case you haven't noticed, you're in America in 2022. Things are a little different, right? So you have to be adapting. Even if you don't like it, it's just the way it is. So, we're here. This is America. We don't have to stay if we don't like it, but I guess it's too late now, So, we got to make the best. We got to deal with it realistically. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. If we have time, I have a quick question. This is about the chant. This is about the chanting again.
Yes.
We're familiar with two common forms of chanting. One is Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, and then another one is Hare Om, Om, Hare Om. Both, I believe, are meant to be manifest our devotion and love toward the Supreme Lord. I wonder if these two forms of chanting is that synonymous, or if there's any distinction,
Yeah.
one form is more appropriate at certain occasions,
Yes.
and the second form is appropriate for some other occasions.
Well, it depends on what your goal is, because, of course, Krishna is representing Krishna in his personal form, and Om is representing Krishna in his impersonal form. So, for one who's practicing bhakti and is a devotee of Krishna, he knows Om as an impersonal representation of Krishna. So, in chanting Krishna, there's Om there. And if you're a devotee of Krishna and you chant Om, you know it's Krishna. But then why would you have to chant Om? Because you'd rather chant Krishna because that's his personal name. It's like calling someone, hey guy, or should I call Satyasara, hey man, or should I call him Satyasara Prabhu, or hey man? Well, he's a man, well, I can call him man. But because I know him, if I didn't know him, I go, excuse me, man, excuse me, sir. I'll call him sir, man. I don't even know his name. And I don't have any relationship with him. But if I'm his friend, I'm not going to say, excuse me, Satyasara, sir. So chanting Om is there in certain mantras for certain rituals. And therefore, if it's certain mantras with Om, then you chant the proper mantra, then it's fine. So it depends on, how you're trying to connect with Krishna. So if you're trying to connect personally, chant Krishna. And then Om also can mean offering obeisances. Om Jnana Timirandasya, Om Namo Narayana. So, you could also ask this question, should I chant Ram? Should I chant so many things? Well, it depends who your Ishtadev is, who you're worshiping, and it depends on your goal, what you're trying to achieve. So those who want love, they'll chant Krishna. I don't know if that answers it perfectly, but that's general idea.
I think that's a good
Good answer.
thing, and it does educate me more than I knew before.
Hari Om.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhuji.
So the interesting thing is, you'll see so many names of Krishna, and sometimes in Prabhupada's books, instead of saying Krishna, he'll say Vishnu or Vasudeva, all these names. What is he thinking of when he says it? Well, he may use a specific name because it's a philosophical context. Like when I say Vasudeva is everywhere, Vasudeva is one who's everywhere. So in that context, but because Prabhupada's a Krishna Bhakta, even if he says Vasudeva and Vasudeva is everywhere, he's just seeing his beloved Krishna everywhere. That's the only thing he sees, right? So that's the idea. Who do you see in your heart? Well, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says Paramatma is in the heart. But who does a bhakta see in the heart? They see their Ishtadev in everyone's heart. They don't see Paramatma per se. Premanjana Chudita Bhakti Vilochanena. All right. When you have the salve of love, you see in the heart of all living entities, who? Shama Sundar. That's Lord Brahma. Who was he seeing? He was seeing Shama Sundar in everyone's heart because he's a Krishna Bhakta. So that's who you see. You see the person you love everywhere, right? So even if you call the person Om, hey Om, but it's Krishna for you. Because that's, that's Krishna. It's just a different aspect. So it depends who you want to worship. For us, we're Westerners. Prabhupada just said Krishna. There he is, the supreme, the origin, everything. Radha Krishna. It doesn't get any better than that. Like, okay, we don't know anything. We don't know who God is. For us, God's an old man with a beard. And so here's a blue boy, plays a flute. That's a lot better. Okay, we'll go with that one. And then Prabhupada explains the whole philosophy from Krishna. Then there's Narayan, and then expansions of quadruple expansions, and Mahavishnu, or 2 times quadruple. And that explains everything. And in all the form expansions of Krishna, they're all serving him. Advaitacharya, Mahavishnu, Sadashivati, was he serving Krishna? So we kind of had it easy. We didn't have to navigate through all the road signs of devatas and gods. And it's like, Just here's Krishna, he's God. Okay. So there are benefits to being born in America. Sometimes keeps things simple. All right, is that good?
Amazing.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
One more question. Lako Prabhu, you are satisfied?
Yes, Prabhu, I'm satisfied.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And yeah, thank you very much for this, late time, keeping everybody on the over 10 clock.
Thank you.
I'll send you my bill later for overtime. It's on, yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. That's a wonderful class and the question and answer. I like the point, like why can't I call any other god name? Why I need to call Krishna? That's I like that answer. And so, Prabhu, I have a question. Like my kid always interested to read Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita or anything. But when I ask chanting is...
You're talking about you or your kids?
No, my kid.
Your kids, yeah.
Yeah. So she's often feel that it's boring.
Yeah.
So can you give some tips to make her...
Chanting not boring? Yeah.
Yeah.
They like kirtan, right?
Oh.
Your kids like kirtan?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you chant, do you look bored?
No.
They see you chanting? What do they think when they see you chanting? They recognize that you like it and they just think, you like it, that's good, but we don't? Is that how they feel?
Yeah. She feels that she knows the importance also. I tell often.
The best answer I could give is you can listen to some of my classes on japa because they all would answer this question. Theoretically, it's Krishna and Krishna's there and you're connected with him. It's when you don't realize that he's there, you don't make the connection, then it's like you're chanting a mantra that has no meaning or significance. So it's important to understand what's actually happening, that you're connecting. And Krishna's there and you can talk to him and he can talk to you. And you can just get out of this world, this crazy world. You can leave it while you're chanting and just transcend. Like all these things are important. For me, one of the things I like about chanting is that I don't have to deal with anything in this world while I'm chanting. I can, all the troubles and problems, I can put them on hold and just connect with Krishna and get that relationship, that energy and so forth. And if I chant and I don't do that, then it's boring. Then I'm just back still in my world with all the crazy things I have to deal with. But if you can actually get out of it, it's so sweet and so special. So to help the children get to that point, we say, okay, just forget about everything you have to do. And just imagine Krishna is here with you right now. And you can, just whatever's in your heart, just say it through the holy name and ask him for help. And then it starts hopefully to become something more significant and powerful, right? The second thing is, well, it's connected with the first thing. You always want, with children, you want to teach them something in a way that they'll want to do it rather than forced. And if they have any friends that are doing it, that helps. Because their friends have more influence on them than you. Generally, right? Or at least equal, if not more. So that helps a lot. And you could maybe find on the internet the various meanings of the holy name. And they're so sweet. Krishna, bring my heart to you. Krishna, help me love you. like things like that. So you can enter into that mood when you're chanting rather than I just have to do this because my parents told me to chant. I really don't want to. I'd rather give me my phone. Where is it? But if you read the meanings and you say, oh, I didn't know the holy name means these things. This is like, I can actually connect with these kinds of prayers. Then it changes. And then you see, oh, this is much different than what I thought. It's not a ritual. It's not a mechanical thing. That's actually a relationship. Then it gets sweet. But if it's mechanical, yeah, then it's really hard.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, what's happening now? We're going on the next hour?
We are ready, Prabhu, but I know you are very tired. Yeah.
I'm not really tired. I'm just hungry.
Oh, okay. So with that, we are going to give you a thank you note, and we are going to make an announcement after that.
Okay.
Then we'll conclude. So Abhay Prabhu will give a thank you note to Prabhu.
So thank you so much, Prabhu. I just took some notes during the class, and I'm just going to read through that. So thank you so much for a very instructive class regarding the importance of sadhana. You nicely explained how sadhana takes precedence over all other activities, and there has to be a balance between sadhana and service. You also emphasized importance of association, daily hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting to remain sane. You also spoke about importance of relationships, especially devotee relationships, and constantly improving oneself 24/7. When we become aware of what we are lacking, there is an opportunity to improve it. Prabhu, thank you so much for sharing stories and memories of time with Srila Prabhupada from early days of the movement. You always use Srila Prabhupada's thoughts and mood as a reference for assessing actions. This is also a good takeaway for us to follow. Prabhu, you preach the message of Lord Chaitanya through various methods like social media, workshops, etc. You have been a part of this movement for such a long time and sincerely followed Srila Prabhupada's instructions. You extend the mercy to common people and less fortunate souls like me that they are attracted to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. At the same time, you also help devotees so that their journey on the path of Krishna consciousness can become smoother. We are truly blessed to have your association and guidance. Thank you for your time today and address our community here at Hare Krishna Temple of Austin. And on a personal note, Prabhu, I was browsing your website and came across the Sattva apparel, the t-shirt logo of ignorance is a choice. It is very catchy and it says a lot. I loved it. The fact is, we are the ones who switched off the light and chose the darkness of ignorance. So we have to make the endeavor to switch it back on, and that probably is the endeavor of sadhana. Thank you so much for taking questions and answers and sharing realizations. His Grace Mahatma Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Gaura Premanandi Hari Bol.
Devotees, we are going to make a quick announcement. Please stay on for a couple more minutes. Janaki Mataji will make announcement.
Do you have that t-shirt here?
I do, yeah.
You have that t-shirt here.
Yeah.
If you want to buy it.
So
Or we can help you order it if you want.
yes, thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much, Mahatma Prabhu, for giving such a nice class. This temple is, I just want to say, this temple is so special to me. It's really, really dear to my heart. And so to have you here is also dear to my heart. It's just really wonderful. So thank you. We have some books. Mahatma Prabhu has brought some books on japa and living the wisdom of bhakti, which is like a practical application. There's a lot of reference to Shastra. And so they're available in this book room over here. And he also has some t-shirts and some USB drives. And one of them has 30 hours of music. And then the other one has 700 hours of lectures. There's just countless workshops. Yes, sorry. It's just really like just a wealth of knowledge. So
How many workshops?
there's 34, I believe.
34 workshops.
Yeah. It's just really
700 hours. So if you sit down for 1 month and don't eat or sleep, you get through it all.
So I will be in the book room, and if you would like to come pick one up, then you can just speak to me, and I can help you. There's also some T-shirts and this, yeah. So we'll be happy to help.
Thank you. And devotees online, if you need a copy of Prabhu's book, USB drive, and T-shirt, please message me on WhatsApp. We will reserve it for you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can see what teachers we have on. We'll give him, is there a card and anything?
Yes, I will take that.
Yeah,
Yes. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for amazing class.
my pleasure.
We
To be
pray
here.
that you visit us often and give your association. I will work with you and your disciples to make that happen. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna devotees, this concludes our evening program. Thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. His Grace Mahatma Prabhu ki.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Hare Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.